And turning to politics now, Donald Trump was also on Capitol Hill today meeting House and Senate Republicans ahead of the GOP convention, which is now less than 2 weeks away. And a spokesperson for Senator Sass released a statement saying Senator Sass went to today's meeting ready to listen. Senator Sass introduced himself to Mr. Trump and the two had a gracious exchange. Mr. Sass continues to believe that our country is in a bad place. And with these two candidates, this election remains a dumpster fire. Nothing has changed. In a Washington Post article says that Donald Trump's private meeting Thursday with Senate Republicans, well, it actually grew combative as Donald Trump admonished three senators who have been critical of his candidacy and even predicted that they would actually lose their re-election bids. Joining me now from Washington is a co-author of that article from the Washington Post national political correspondent Philip Rucker. Phil, I want to ask you, how did today's meeting go? Was it more about damage control? It's already a really tenuous relationship between the presumptive nominee and Republicans within his party.
That's right. It was designed to try to foster more party unity. Remember, the convention in Cleveland is only a week and a half away, and Donald Trump is trying to unite Republican leaders behind his candidacy. The meeting began as sort of an update about his campaign, and he presented a lot of optimistic views about how he would do in the swing states, but it grew really combative when he singled out Senator Ben Sasse of Nebraska, as well as Mark Kirk of Illinois and Jeff Flake of Arizona. And his exchange with Jeff Flake was particularly interesting and heated. Jeff Flake actually introduced himself to Mr. Trump. He said, "I'm the other senator from Arizona, not the one who got captured," which of course is a reference to Trump's comments about John McCain and his Vietnam War service from last summer.
You know, Donald Trump may be a billionaire and wealthy and part of the 1%, but part of his MO, Phil, has been attracting this group who is very anti-Washington. So does he need these more establishment Republicans to back him going into the convention and into the November election?
You know, it's an interesting point. He doesn't think he needs them. And you could make a compelling argument that he doesn't, that in fact he thrives off of this kind of tension, and that grassroots voters out there in the country don't really much care what the U.S. senators say about him. But it is a problem. I mean, it's a problem for him as the nominee of this party to come to Washington to meet with the party leaders and to face such hostility, public hostility. I mean, that's a problem. We have not seen that on the Democratic side with Hillary Clinton. We've not seen that in 2012 with Mitt Romney on the Republican side. Historically, senators have not always loved the candidates who become their nominees, but they've not been so public in their disdain for them. The exchange today with Jeff Flake was really pretty remarkable. Trump actually told Flake in front of all of the other senators, "I think you're going to lose re-election," at which point Flake had to remind Trump that he's not actually on the ballot this year and does not face re-election until 2018.
Oops there. Well, Donald Trump also, do you believe that a lot of Republican candidates usually after the convention see a big bounce after the conventions happen? Do you think he'll get to see that? And do you think he'll ultimately be able to unify the party before the convention?
He might. I don't think the party's going to be fully unified before the convention. That's been pretty clear. You know, just think, for example, that all of the Bushes and Mitt Romney, the past nominee, have chosen not to attend and are not planning to vote for Donald Trump. So I don't see a change in the next 10 days there. But I do think Trump has a potential to grow his support with the convention. If he has a successful convention, if he can really press his arguments that he's a job creator, that he's somebody who can keep the country safe, that he's somebody who can bring change to Washington, which we know our polling shows a lot of voters want. And if he can really prosecute a case against Hillary Clinton from the convention floor in Cleveland and have a good vice presidential pick, sure, he can rise a little bit in the polls. He doesn't really have anywhere but up to go because he's so low right now in the polls. So I would expect he might be able to get some sort of a bounce. But we should also remember that Hillary Clinton has the Democratic convention the following week. And so certainly she's going to try to get a bounce too. So, you know, maybe they'll both come out of the conventions pretty much where they are now.
Good point, Phil. And I want to ask you before you go, Hillary Clinton does well with women, Donald Trump not so much. Do you think he needs to put a woman on the VP ticket?
He certainly has a lot to gain if he does. He does not do well with women, and he actually does worse with women than the past Republican nominees have done. It's a pretty alarming figure, actually, for his campaign. I think he's going to try to find ways to appeal to women. It doesn't necessarily require putting one on the ticket, but remember, his daughter is very articulate and well-spoken and well thought of. Ivanka Trump, I think she's going to have a big role at the convention in Cleveland, trying to testify to her father's character, to his trustworthiness, to his business example. And there are other women who can try to help him in that regard too. One is Senator Joni Ernst from Iowa, who had been considered for VP. She sort of took herself out of the running in an interview with Politico the other day, but she's going to have a major primetime speech at the convention, and I think she certainly would have a chance to try to win over some women for Donald Trump.
Okay, Philip Rucker from the Washington Post. We'll leave it at that. Phil, thank you for joining us.
Glad to be here.